Don't do anything if you don't know what the intention of doing it is.
Yes.
And you've got to, it is work, you've got to really think about it. Is
Have.
what's the intention? I mean, the big one is people have meetings for meeting's sake. It's like, have an intention of what the meeting's for. But I think what's great is when you add in, well, it's to check in on the accountability of these different actions.
Absolutely.
Or whatever, then it's like, wow, now that makes a whole lot more sense.
Yes.
And I think even as the leader of the business for your staff, the people who work for you, they then get invigorated by that, because it's almost like, well, they know what they're doing. This is great. We're actually getting held accountable. They're checking in, and then they actually feel part of what's going on. Hello, this is part 2 of our podcast with Jennifer Robinson. If you haven't listened to part 1 yet, we recommend you go back and have a watch or a listen to that, and then come and join us on part 2 of our leadership podcast. Okay, so we've spoken quite a lot about like an individual business owner, etc. I just want to have a bit more of a conversation about staff and team, because I know you do a lot of work with companies around that. Is there a secret, do you think, to how you build great staff or team? And because it's people you do it all the time. It's like, oh, how do I motivate my staff? Or I've got a difficult member of my team. How do I deal with that? And a lot of the time, we can look at it and go, well, it's you make it all about money or something. It's like, well, that's how you motivate them. It's like, well, that ain't true particularly. Yes. What would you say about that?
Well, there's lots I could say. Just thinking what would be.
Well, if you've got any examples of people you've worked with in the past, or
yes,
companies,
absolutely.
Or whatever.
So I think what I'd say is, it all starts with. I mean, there are already individuals there.
Yes.
With whatever they're dealing with.
Yeah.
Whatever they bring to the situation.
Yeah.
And so the work I do with individuals is for them to look and discover what's going on where they are.
Yes.
So that they can be responsible for that, and how that impacts their, interaction with people, how that affects just following instructions,
yes.
or getting things right, or getting on with people.
Is it sort of saying, if you do the work on yourself, like we've spoken about in the first part, what you're recognising is like, well, everything that you deal with, everybody in your team or your staff are pretty much not exactly the same thing, but they're still all going to have those limiting beliefs.
Exactly.
And all
We're
of those
all
sorts.
human beings. You start with there, and I think I said it earlier, that where I'm already coming from is that people are okay.
Yeah.
They really are, and people are actually more than okay.
Yeah.
People are extraordinary. The people I've worked with, the thousands of people I've worked with over the years, many of whom didn't have that relationship with themselves.
Yeah.
That
Yes.
they were okay.
Yeah.
Most people come in with some kind of, as you call, limiting belief about themselves, not even necessarily conscious.
Yes.
But one kind of designs one's life to avoid the things that you think are a threat to you.
Yeah, exactly.
You said earlier, you decide you're stupid, so you better not be accountable to anybody, because they'll find out. And we're not even aware of that. So there's
true.
that as an individual. And then when you see it at play in teams or in a company structure, we're talking to different people. If you're talking to the company owner or the managers, something starts where they are, in my view, and that kind of training to look from their perspective that includes the people they work with, that actually has some kind of appreciation for the human being that's over there. So, you said, I'm sure it's very familiar to people that you have, certainly having had my own company, and at one point we had 35 staff, which included most of my family. There are, you look out and you go, well, they're the problem. Yeah. If only they would do it the way I told them to do it, everything would work well. If only they got on better with that person, you kind of see the dynamic of it. But the team member that's not performing, or the difficult team member, there is an access to something. Yeah. There's an access to, rather than you're dealing with a problem, to actually get interested in what is that person dealing with.
Yeah.
And I don't mean, look, if you're running a business, you're not a social worker as well. You're not. It's not like, oh, how are you? And I'm sorry you've got problems. And I don't.
It's not
I
that.
don't mean that unempathetically either.
Yeah.
But that's not it. It's more that if you get interested in what people are dealing with,
Yeah.
such that they experience that it matters
Yeah.
what they're dealing with.
Yeah.
It's unbelievably extraordinary results. I mean, one with our own company, but also we worked with a company that was a family started company. It was siblings started a company, and it was they had
always say don't work with family and friends.
Yes, we did. I mean, we did. Some were better than others. My brother worked for us, and we used to come in and his screen would be turned to the side, and we'd creep in and have a look. And he's like, "Yes, he's watching the cricket." But it can work.
Yeah.
But it can work. But it can work in the same way of working with anybody. Is that you've got a kind of a foundational template or a way it works. Not quite. So one is that if you get interested in other people, you find out that they're dealing with stuff the same as you are, right?
I actually think that's probably, like you say, it's the most important thing. Because again, when a lot of people start their own business, one of the things they don't know about running a business is how to deal with staff and team and
yes,
etc.
Exactly.
And sometimes they want to impose their own personality on it. Or we were talking earlier, weren't we, about limited thinking that people have because they only got that's the only perspective they've got.
Yes.
And then they have a fear of trying to be this great leader or whatever.
Yeah.
They end up just being, I'm just going to tell them what to do and get annoyed with them when they don't do it the right way and all of that.
Exactly.
Whereas you use that, it's like, actually go and get interested in those people.
Yes.
And you'll be surprised. It's that area of discovery again, isn't it?
It is, and it's good what you said, because I was thinking about what you said about limited thinking. Yeah. What limits your thinking is thinking that what you think is the only thing that's available to think. do you know what I mean?
Yes.
It's like,
I wish I could remember that and say, but I'll look back and learn it. But yeah, it's true.
If you think that if you think you've got to have the answer, you're the boss. You've got to have the answer. You've got to manage the team. You've got to get it. That has already limited your thinking.
Yeah.
Because there's no other thinking available, and that's
Very
really
true,
good. Because I think that's the work I've done over the years.
Yeah.
One, to discover my own limited thinking.
Yeah.
But in working with people, it's not for me or you or anyone to tell people what their limited thinking is. Because if you do that, that's more the kind of I've got the answer and you. Then people don't just. Then they've got more knowing. Oh, I know I've got limited thinking, which makes ultimately no difference.
Yeah.
So when you can look at what your limited thinking is, now something's possible. So what you were saying about difficult staff. I was saying I worked with a company who they'd started from scratch, and they were incredible company, passionate, really a really vision for something and a real passion. And they started having people work with them from the beginning. They had one or two people coming and working with them. They started as they started, and then they had 3 or 4 or 5 people. They're working together as a team. They're up to something, building the company, the excitement of it.
Yeah.
And then they needed more people, and they had more people. At the point they had about 23, 24 staff, something like that. It wasn't going well. There was upsets, and people weren't doing their jobs, and there was breakdowns, and people were arguing with people. And we came in, and
how long had they been going at that stage? Would you say
probably 5 or 6 years? I think
right.
something like that. And and we had this experience ourselves with our company. We started from home, and the momentum and the excitement and the vision, and you full on concentrate, and then the working with staff. That thing, well, I'm paying you. Could you just do what we want you to do? It doesn't quite work. And when we came in to do this work with the company, what we did was we asked the owners to go out for lunch. And we just sat with the staff, and it was it was slow to start with. They were a bit like this with us. Who are you? And we said, we're not here for anything. This is confidential between us. We're not now going to go and report what you said. This is an opportunity for you to be in communication about what's going on.
Yeah.
And they started slow, but when they started to communicate and as you say, be heard, and all we did was then they started to hear it for themselves. Oh, we're upset because when we first started, we were just part of the team. We were just all in it together, and now we're just one of the staff. And then these other people have come in, and they're better than what happens. And so we really got in communication, and then we had another meeting, and we had a meeting with the owners.
Yeah.
Not to tell them what was said, but to just just for them
Easily
to be in communication. Like, what are they afraid of? What are they? And then we had a meeting with all of them, and it was just magical. It was people got some people left.
Yeah,
they did, and that's the other point of it. Is one of the things that came out of it that's really critical is this distinguishing, being really clear about accountability.
Yeah,
and it's a funny word. You sort of. Oh, isn't that in your job description or something?
Yeah.
But the thing about accountability is it distinguishes the human being from the actual job.
Yeah. Okay.
Accountability.
Yes.
And accountability is it's a two-sided thing.
Right.
It's not, if you're a company owner, what can you be responsible for? That's down to you. I can be responsible for the my business thriving, having a great atmosphere at work, and providing a great service.
Yeah.
That's my job. That's my job.
Yeah.
I'm responsible for that. Nobody else has to.
Right. Okay.
Great, they do, but that's what I'm responsible for personally, and every one of us.
So there's a difference then between responsibility and accountability.
Yeah. Responsibility is something that's available to each and every one of us.
Okay.
We can be responsible for anything.
Right, okay.
Nobody, we're
and you
not
just
promising
say it.
Yeah, I'm responsible
Yeah.
for peace on earth.
Yeah.
I'm taking that on myself.
Yeah.
I'm going to be responsible for that. Doesn't mean I'm going to do it all. Doesn't mean, but nobody's holding me to account for it.
Got it, yeah.
And it's like a stand I take.
Yeah. Okay.
And as a human being, you can take a stand for anything.
Yeah.
No one can mess with it.
So in my world, I would have it that I'm responsible for everybody being kind to each other.
Yeah.
'Cause that's one of my things.
And it's not now your job.
Yes,
Nobody's
exactly.
going to come to you and go, people aren't kind.
Yeah.
No. And actually what will show up is people not being kind.
Right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But you can still keep standing for it. Like it's, okay, my life's in service of that. Nobody can mess with it.
Yeah.
Accountability is very distinct.
Right.
Because it's a two-way thing.
Yeah.
It's, I'm holding you to account for this accountability.
Right.
So this better be clear.
Yeah.
It better be really clear what that accountability is. Because if you're expecting someone to be accountable for something, but you haven't made it clear how, by when, whatever, then it falls.
So really, when you're hiring people, then, or you're working with people, actually, it's not enough. Almost to go, oh, come and work with me, and this is your job.
This is your job, right?
Exactly.
No.
That's all well and good. On top of that, I would imagine it's on top of that is then, okay, here's the actual accountability of your role.
Yeah.
And you've got to get an agreement in employing that person for them to go, yeah, I agree, excuse me, I'm going to be accountable for that. And you, my boss, are going to hold me accountable.
That's
right. Is that right? Yeah, okay,
it's
great.
It's really great. And it's there's a world to it. Because one is, if the accountability isn't clear, then you've got expectations.
Yeah.
You've got doing your best. You've got doing it my way. You've got doing I thought I was doing. You've got all of that. Then you've got difficult,
Yeah.
staff not doing their job. You've
Yes.
got bosses who expect stuff from me that I never agreed to do.
Yeah.
But when you get the accountability,
Yeah.
and I'm new to this discovery in business, how it
Yeah.
actually, I've been working, as you know, with a colleague who's
Yeah.
really so precise about this.
Perfect.
That when you get the accountability clear, and it takes something, it's not like, oh, you're accountable for sales.
Yeah, no, exactly.
No, you're accountable for...
It's got to be more specific than that.
It's got to be specific.
Yeah.
Otherwise, what are you being held to account for?
Yeah.
But then where it gets really powerful is, one is you're really clear what the accountability is.
Yeah.
Two is you know that you're being held to account for it.
Yeah.
So you'll need to be held
Yeah.
to account if you don't honor,
Yeah.
keep the agreements or whatever. You're also asking to be held to account.
Yes.
So it puts you in the, like, it's a mutual thing.
Yes.
Then, this is the thing I find, it's like thrilling about it in this conversation and really
Yeah.
any conversation, is what you're now dealing with, the world you're now dealing with, is the absence of something. So what do I mean? The absence of not good enough,
Yeah.
doing okay, whose fault is it, who's to blame, who's in trouble,
Right or wrong, yeah, all of
right,
that
who's
stuff.
right,
Yeah.
who's wrong, do as I say, don't do.
Yeah.
That's not in that world.
Yeah.
It's incredibly clean. And then if somebody is then probably the next question was, well, how do you deal with that?
Yeah.
How do you deal with if it's not working? One, you go to the accountability and you can really look.
Yeah.
It's
Almost like there's no grey area then, is
there's
there?
no grey area, but there's always consequences.
Yeah.
You see, if you're not fulfilling on your accountability, then you can look. What
Yeah.
is it?
Yeah.
What are you dealing with? Sometimes someone is not fulfilling on their accountability because they're dealing with something that they don't think they can bring into the workplace.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what people deal with.
Yeah.
They deal with relationships. They deal with,
Absolutely, yeah.
the children are struggling at school.
Yeah.
Their husbands never home, or
Yeah. You're right, because when they're going to work, it's like nobody else is ever interested or asking them about that.
No.
They're just like, yeah, you just need to get your job done.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, it's challenging because
Yeah.
it does. If you've got somebody in the company, if you've got somebody who's good. I mean, if you've got an HR department, that's presumably their job. I mean,
Yeah.
I've never actually worked with HR departments. Really, I was in my former life, I was an air hostess
Right.
for 10
Right,
years. Right, we didn't have HR. No, we didn't have HR departments, or there would have been a few changes. I
Yes.
think. But if somebody, the thing is, if you discover that somebody's not fulfilling on their accountability,
Yeah.
it can be a number of things.
Yeah.
It can be they're just not equipped for that job.
Yeah.
They wanted to be. They really did want
Yeah.
to be, but actually, it's not for them.
Yeah.
And then you can, then there's that
You deal with
conversation.
that. Yeah.
Or they were great. They were really performing.
Yeah.
If you look in your teams and you've got people who were really great, really
Yeah.
performing, and suddenly they're not. What is that?
Yeah.
Is there a change in their team? Is there a change in their management?
Yeah.
Are they dealing with something at home?
Yeah.
And I'm saying this. I am aware that we're talking to people who are, full on running their own companies,
Yeah.
and the product, the marketing, the finance, all
Yeah.
of that, and then you've got this as well. But
It's key to it,
if
isn't
you
it?
get it in,
Yeah.
that's the thing. If you get it
Yeah.
in as the kind of the context of your company,
Yeah.
because a company is never just about the money. I mean, of course you want the money.
Yeah.
You want to be. That's the game.
Yeah.
Right? The game. Without the game of being successful and effective.
I always say it's like, I mean, as a world, we made up currency
Exactly,
and money
yes.
as a trade-off for time or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, and like you say, it's a game. The game is go and turn over £1 million or whatever.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not what has you operate in here, or even your staff members or anybody, even your customers.
No.
That's just about engagement, communication.
Yeah.
But I love what you say about just be interested in people.
Yeah.
That makes them go into a shop and be interested to the person behind the counter serving you a
Yes.
pint of milk, and that makes a tremendous difference to your
and
life.
it's very good because, again, if you think, so, you tell people to be interested in people. It's like, give me a break. I'm just like, give me a break. I don't dip interested in people. I've been more.
Yeah.
But interested in people includes you.
Yes, exactly.
Oh, if I'm interested in people, including me,
Yeah.
how do people operate? And what is it? Didn't she say that people are already okay?
Yeah.
Well, that's not my
Yeah.
experience of myself or life. So hang on, let me think about that.
Yeah.
What if I am okay
Yeah.
and then stuff happened?
Mm.
And then you think about, a life,
Mm.
right? Whatever your views are, probably in this piece,
Yeah.
it's probably just going to be one life,
Yes.
right? And, you get, when people close to you have died,
Mm.
we've had a very special one in the last few years,
Yeah.
and then my brother died a couple of years ago, and you get the one thing that's common to us all. I remember doing a little plaque for my brother, and it had his date of birth, and the date of his death,
Mm.
and the same with Steve, right? Our friend Steve.
Yeah.
And we looked like, we're all going to have that,
Yeah.
and it's just kind of the gap in between.
Yeah.
So while we've got this piece to play,
Yeah.
it does seem kind of absurd that so much of it in the world is spent like surviving,
Yeah.
getting it right, staying
Yeah.
out of trouble, winning
Absolutely.
at all costs,
Yeah.
hiding. We're not great at taking
Yeah.
care of each other in that way. I don't
Exactly.
think we are. And so from a company perspective, it's not now being about, a social work,
Yeah.
being, I've got to care about it. No, it's not. It's just getting how the machinery of human beings work.
Exactly.
Because it actually enhances everything you do in a
Yeah.
company. Your team meetings. What's your team meeting for?
Yeah.
What's the accountabilities that are being dealt with in this
Yeah.
meeting?
Yeah.
What's the intention of the
I was
meeting?
just about to say that word, because that's a big thing we coach people on. Is like, don't do anything unless don't do anything if you don't know what the intention of doing it is.
Yes.
And you've got to, it is work. You've got to really think about
You
it. Is
have.
what's the intention? I mean, the big one is people have meetings for meeting's sake. It's like, have an intention of what the meeting's for. But I think what's great is when you add in, well, it's to check in on the accountability of these different actions.
Absolutely.
Or whatever, then it's like, wow, now that makes a whole lot more sense.
Yes.
And I think even as the leader of the business for your staff, the people who work for you, they then get invigorated by that, because it's almost like, well, they know what they're doing. This is great. We're actually getting held accountable. They're checking in, and then they actually feel part of what's going on.
Absolutely.
And if I keep talking, it's almost like it refers me back to that thing of like, well, that's how you get your staff to build a company that fulfills your dream.
Exactly.
And that's what works.
Because everything's
Really good.
inside the intention.
Yeah.
And it's good, actually, because the intention, what's the intention of your company?
Yeah, exactly that.
I mean, if it is
Yeah.
to make money,
Yeah,
okay,
great.
that's clear.
Yeah.
I mean, it's clear.
Yeah.
The intention of your company is to make money. How much? By when?
Yeah.
The more specific you can be,
Yes,
because then
that's key.
then you can say, well, we didn't fulfil the intention.
Yeah,
Okay, what was missing?
yeah,
Anything that takes you out of the world of failure and
Yeah,
wrong
absolutely.
and striving into
Yeah.
the world of actually you've got your hands on the wheel of something. You
Yeah.
actually know has it work.
yeah,
The better it is. And we've talked a lot,
yeah,
and it all comes down to very basic principles like
That's
how
it.
does it, what's actually satisfying for a human being.
Yeah.
When you look, and you've got to spend meetings. I mean, I just had to come back to oh my goodness. When we had our company, we made personal organisers, right? Paul,
Yes,
my
that's
husband,
right.
invented a personal organiser. We later heard about Filofax,
Yeah.
but he was an innovator in the
Yeah.
field of personal organisers. And then we had shops and a factory, and we did our own printing and cutting and all the rest of it, and ended up with staff. And the twins were 3 when we started.
yeah. Wow,
And,
twins as well.
yeah. And we moved out of our home. We had to move the business out of our home when
Yeah.
when I think Tom was 4, and he answered the phone to the buyer of Harrods. I said, "Hello, I'm Tom." All right, okay, we might need to move to to new premises
Yeah.
at some point. But the what was the point of it? Oh, I forgot the point. What was the point? Did I have a good point there? Meetings. Thank you.
That's
Meetings.
it. Thank you, Joy.
Meetings. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
You'd have meetings, and sorry, no disrespect, but mostly men who didn't have children to pick up from school. You go, yes, we have a meeting from 1 and it'll be for 45 minutes. Great.
Yeah.
Hour and a half later, somebody's still wittering on their
about,
opinion about something and
Yeah.
da, da, da. And we did get better at it
Yeah.
because I got to pick the kids up from school.
Yeah.
You can't. But the point is, meetings that are annoying,
Yeah.
boring,
Yeah.
counterproductive, a waste of time.
Mm.
You got the same person who dominates the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and if it's you, sorry,
Yeah.
but you know, it's good to get
Yeah.
it. But when you get it to and anybody can do this really with you know it's the training you're talking about. It's
Yeah.
leadership.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be the boss. You can
No,
have
exactly.
someone. You're accountable for the way this meeting goes.
Yeah.
I used to be chair of the PTA. Oh my goodness, you can't. You know, someone's got to be in their bonnet about something, and I took on managing the meetings.
Yeah.
No, everyone. This is what I want to hear from you.
Yeah.
I'm not being, rigorous about it, but if you've got a meeting that's got a specific outcome
Yeah.
inside an intention for your
Yeah.
company, you've got
Yeah.
a specific outcome. At the out of this, we want to know how that accountability is going. The breakdown you spoke about the last time, we want to
Yeah.
know, did it get resolved? If not, what's missing?
Yeah.
So it's not. Then it's kind of actually fun.
Yeah. Exactly.
Exciting.
Yeah.
Because you're producing results and people have the experience of being.
Well, I think that's the thing, isn't
to
it? It's
something.
it's those results that get produced,
Yeah.
and then even just as the business owner, you can go, "Oh, great, we got that result. More than that, I know how we did it."
Very good.
Rather than it just be, "How do we do that?"
Yes.
We just riding by the seat of our pants, or
Yeah.
we were lucky, or whatever. It's like no. We set intentions, we had some outcomes, and we held people accountable.
Yes.
And I took responsibility for all of it.
Exactly. And then the other side of it is when you don't produce the results,
Yes.
you're then not going to whose fault is it?
Exactly that,
Who's
yeah.
the problem?
Yeah.
You're going to actually let's look. Oh, that's the piece that
Yeah.
broke down. That's the piece that didn't
Yeah.
work. Or I wasn't aware that you were dealing with that.
Yeah.
So
Now we know.
now we know
yeah.
that you need make sure you're in communication.
Because the other thing I say to business owners as well is like, because there's all this fear of failure. And if people can just take that whole concept away, and I say, don't say failure, just say feedback. Everything's feedback, that's all.
Yes.
So if your intention was to go and sell 1 million units this year and you didn't, you only sold 500,000, the feedback is, well, what worked about selling 500,000 that you
Yes.
could do more of,
Yeah.
and what didn't work, they didn't sell anything, well, don't do that again.
Yeah.
That's all. It wasn't
That's
a
it.
failure that you only
Yeah.
did 500,000, not 1 million.
Yeah.
So I think that's great that
It's
it
the
comes into that
significant
way.
again. It's what we've been talking about the whole time about limiting beliefs and decisions that
Yeah.
you made. That failing is bad and
Yeah.
wrong, and it's more that I think as human beings we collapse failing with being a failure.
Yes, definitely.
And personally, I don't know anybody that's never failed.
Yeah, exactly.
In whatever.
Yeah.
But it's the whole connotation that you're a failure and there's something
Yeah.
wrong. No, I mean, goodness, if you're up to stuff,
Yeah,
you're going to fail.
Yeah.
You're going to fail to produce the result you went
Yeah.
for. And it's like you say, you take the significance out of that and the oh no, I've got to hide it, or I've got to
Yeah.
pretend it, or I've got to blame somebody else.
yes. I mean, it really is that, what's the phrase? Fail your way to the top.
Yes.
People say, don't they? And it's like, well, that's exactly
Yeah,
true.
so many
And
things, yeah.
that's what you need to do.
And in life as well, and again, it's if you can meet challenges,
Yes.
failures to produce results,
Yeah.
without all the things you decide about it. You
Yeah.
know? I mean, you failed at some point, and then
Absolutely,
decided
yeah.
you cannot.
Yeah.
You know, you at all costs you can't fail.
Yeah.
Then it's got you.
Yeah.
It's got you forever. You can never really take on big challenges.
Yeah. And part of it is how that old here works as well, isn't it?
Totally.
Because if you experience that as a failure, then what you're going to do is look for more evidence of
Yes.
that and say that to yourself, and then
Oh,
it
yeah.
becomes, it's
you're
just
not required. Your
Yeah,
brain
exactly
is
that,
actually
yeah.
out to make sure you
Yeah,
never make
exactly.
that mistake again.
Yeah.
And it's watching for the
Yeah.
signs. Don't stick your head above the parapet, or
Yeah.
make sure you've got the right answer. Make sure you know.
Yeah.
And then in everything, it's so great. Such a great conversation, isn't it? 'Cause it's sort of, the freedom. I mean, that's the thing that I'm
I was gonna
really
use that
passionate
word.
about.
Yeah.
That people have the experience of being free
Yes.
and effective
Yeah.
in the face of all circumstances. So
Yeah.
free and effective in the face of breakdowns and failures.
Because it's almost like the circumstances aren't going to change. Well, I mean, they
They
might
ain't.
change, but in essence, it's just a recurring thing of like,
Yeah.
shit happens.
It
just
really,
does.
yeah.
And it's then how or what have you learnt about yourself or trained yourself in that has you just go, oh, okay, well, that's that circumstance. It's not what I want, but this is how we deal with it.
Yeah.
And then that in itself is self-perpetuating, that the more you
Absolutely.
do it, the better it becomes, the more fulfilled
So
you become.
and there's this just kind of, I don't know, maybe it's something you start with as a child, but this kind of illusion that life is, I can remember when I realised that life wasn't just one big
Yes.
game, like I was sort of 5 or something. I heard my
Yeah.
parents arguing, and I thought,
Yeah.
oh no,
Yeah.
no. Like, I mean, what was it? Somebody said, life is a daring adventure or nothing. Some you don't. Anyway.
Yeah.
You're born.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. Do you know?
Yeah, exactly
And,
that, yeah.
And the circumstances and we've had it. It's like the cards you're dealt.
Yeah.
Then you get to play with them.
Yeah.
And, you win some and you don't
Yeah.
win some, but that's the thing that I would say sort of. That's the thing I'm most passionate about and committed about.
Yeah.
Because once you've discovered that people are okay, they
Yeah.
really are okay,
Yeah.
and they have barriers or decisions
Yeah.
or thought patterns
Absolutely.
that have developed over the years of
Yeah.
whatever life we've been dealt. Then it gets, it gets really exciting. The working with people who discover that they really are okay
Yeah.
and they can play in life
Yeah.
and have the kind of results that they never even thought was possible.
Yeah. I think that's the thing. It's like, and we, in our modules, we call it sort of transformational as opposed to transactional, if you like. So
Yeah.
you're not, don't just be the person that runs a company and trades a product for money or the services of your staff as like, oh, you give me your time, I'll give you some money and I'll tell you what to do.
Yeah.
It is that whole transformational thing, which I think is what we've been talking about, is getting interested in people, discovering
Yeah.
newly. And when you do that, it's almost like a light bulb going on.
is.
It's like, oh my God, what if I'm like this, or my staff are like this, or our company is like this? All of a sudden, so many more things open up and become possible that you didn't think. So it could
Yeah.
even be as like, oh, well, I'm on it's not possible for me to turn over more than £1 million. I'll never be a £10 million company. Well, that's just rubbish. That's just all the stuff you say
Yeah.
about it. Have that transformational education, if you like, and
Yeah.
transform your thinking. And all of a sudden, becoming a £10 million company becomes totally possible.
Yes. And I'd say transformation in another way.
Yeah.
Is it? If you think of it like worlds, like a world,
Yeah.
the world that human beings normally operate in
Yeah.
is one of fixing, changing, improving,
Yeah.
getting better,
Yes.
kind of making it,
Yeah.
surviving in some way. That's
Definitely
the kind of the
surviving.
world of
Yeah.
it. and it's all located. Like I'm over here,
Yeah. Yes.
and
I
everything
know what
else
you're
is
going to
over
say.
there.
Yeah.
Like, and it really
And
does
nothing
occur
shall
like
come between us.
really does occur
Yeah.
like that, because when you live in here,
Yeah.
I mean, when I discovered this for myself, I never got over it, literally never
Yeah.
got over it, because I lived like all those thoughts
Yeah.
and points of view and attitudes to things was me actually describing what's actually happening.
Yeah.
Versus, no, that's what I'm deciding about what's happening. That's my
Yeah.
reaction to what's happening.
Yeah.
That's how I'm working out how to get through this, like
Yeah.
avoid girls at all
Yeah.
cost, for example. And all you can do in that world
Yeah.
is fix, change, improve,
Yeah.
control.
Yes.
That world of it, that which if you relate it to business, it's kind of really, it's really clear.
Yeah.
And people do a great job. I'm not
Yeah,
saying it's not.
absolutely.
People do a
Yeah.
brilliant job of managing, controlling, winning.
Yeah.
Win, avoid losing, all of that. Transformation is a whole new world.
Yeah.
It's like the opening up of a different perspective. Like, oh, I actually lived like it's true.
Yes.
I'm stupid,
Yeah.
and I better make sure nobody finds out.
Yeah.
Oh, aha. Now, you may still have those thoughts. You may still act that way from time to time.
Yeah.
You may notice in certain situations
Yeah.
it's very pronounced.
Yeah.
You put yourself above the parapet, right? You go and lead to people, and you have the, audacity to say you've got something to contribute to people, right?
Yeah.
It's going to come up.
Yeah.
But you're in a different,
Definitely.
you have the access to a different world.
Yeah.
Is when you're willing to discover, and the enemy of discovering is knowing.
Yeah.
Like, I know people can't be trusted.
Yeah.
I know about people. I know that
Yeah.
I'm never going to be good at relationships or whatever. The moment you hear yourself saying in some form or other,
Yeah.
I know I'll never be a good manager. I
Yeah.
know that person's trouble. The moment you hear yourself saying, I know, what will come right behind it is all the evidence for it, the thing that keeps it.
Yeah.
Because now you know, because the human beings like to know. And they kind of don't like to not know.
No. Yeah.
Right? And if you can discover, it's the enemy of discovering,
Yeah.
right? And they go, oh, what is there to discover?
Yes.
Which is what you are training people in. It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
okay, you've got this particular view
Yeah.
that's been unquestioned.
Yeah.
Not only unquestioned, but the nature of being human is that you've got all the evidence for it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at, what's happening in the world,
Yeah.
is that
Yeah.
on loudspeaker.
Absolutely.
It's I know this, I'm right about this,
Yeah.
they're wrong,
Yeah.
I'll prove it.
Yeah.
Whatever,
I've got to win.
absolutely.
whatever it is,
Yeah,
yeah.
whatever it is. Whatever it is, whether it's your point of view that wins or
It's interesting as well, because what I also get from our conversation is, in a way, and like you've done with me over the years, it's not always possible for you just to get it for yourself. You've got to have somebody take you on that path or that journey
Yeah.
or point something out.
yeah.
But when somebody does that, then you can go and do the work, because now you've been pointed as to where you need to go and look.
Yes.
Then you go and look, and then you discover it for yourself.
Yeah.
It's not so easy just to be going around in life and then go, oh, I know, I've just discovered this about myself.
Yeah.
Because it's has
You're
been
in the-
referred to like blind spots, isn't it?
Yeah,
And that,
absolutely. It's
you know.
the word. That's a very good point. You actually do need
Yeah.
to employ people
Yeah,
like me.
no, exactly. Well, that's what we're sort of in the business of. But
It is
just for
that.
people to understand, hopefully, people listening in and watching in on this podcast will be having insights for themselves just by us having this conversation.
Exactly.
And they go, oh my God,
never
I've got
thought that. Yeah.
exactly that, and that's what it's about, I think.
I was thinking about that when on the way here. Actually, I was thinking, the nature of the conversation actually does point to people being able, right? Because that's what you're doing.
Yeah.
Is that if anybody listens to this and they're a manager and they have some of the challenges we've been talking about
Yeah.
staff and teams and so forth, they will.
Yeah,
I'm sure, and I know that's your intention, is that
Yeah.
people get some access.
Yeah.
And you're absolutely spot on. What had me start my own business
Yeah.
was I wanted the opportunity to just create my own expression.
Yes.
You know, I was
Yeah.
brilliantly trained by the company I worked with.
Yeah.
I will never, cease being grateful for
Yeah.
the training and the the perspective I
Yeah,
got from working with this
absolutely.
company. And I wanted an opportunity to find my own expression of it. And it does work to work with someone.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been quite kind of surprised myself in a way, is that I've worked with some clients, completely my own clients that have
Yeah.
come to me, and I've worked with them. The lack of concern that I have
Yeah.
that it's going to make a difference.
Yeah.
And that might sound, I don't know if it sounds
No, I know
arrogant,
exactly
but
what you mean. Yeah.
it's because I already start with, these people are already successful and they're up to stuff.
Yeah.
And they've got barriers or blind spots or something they haven't seen or discovered, or something that they live like it's true. I have the skills and the training to hear it.
Yes.
And it's, sometimes just in a tone. Working on Zoom has been brilliant, actually brilliant, for personal coaching. And
Yeah.
I've worked with, families and
Yeah.
groups. And it's brilliant because you can hear it. I can hear it, and
Yeah.
I can see it, and it just point to something,
Yeah.
and it opens something up. So working with someone really does work.
Yeah.
It really does, and that people get insights and
Yeah.
and
And I think it's true as well, if people are up to something, and generally business owners who run their own would be up to something, then it makes sense to be like, well, if you want to be really either successful or fulfilled or happy or however you want to say about it, why wouldn't you, like I said earlier, learn how that works or learn about yourself?
Yes.
And, I always say in business anyway, on a different tack is, I just surround myself with people who are infinitely better at all the individual parts of the business than I am.
Yeah.
So I know something of all the bits, but actually my team is like, no, I want somebody who's up there, and I want to know about how I operate myself to be able to deal with all of those people.
That's really good, because there's something you said about teams. I remember thinking, when I've created teams, ones with a company, and then with the work we set up here in Brighton was creating a team, was to get people to do a job.
Yeah.
But what if your teams were all about having people who were brilliant at that job?
Yeah.
In that job.
Yes.
Not just get someone to do the job for you, but
exactly
someone that's way,
Yeah.
I mean, not just better than me, but that's their job. It's not my job, it's their job.
Very good. Yeah.
Which was a lot of what we did with our company. There was stuff that I was just, not really my thing, not really good at. Then
so true, because you were just saying earlier about your son and him looking at fitting people into a role.
Yeah.
And like you say, it's not just, just get anybody that could come and do that role. It's got to be the right fit, if you like, for
them and for the company.
Exactly that, yeah.
I used to say to people, I used to coach people when they had interviews,
Yeah.
and they'd be like nervous about the interview and will they get the job? And I said, no, hang on a minute, you're interviewing them as well.
Exactly that, yeah.
If you went into, if the interview process in companies when you're employing staff, where you're not just interviewing to see if they're good enough for the job, but you're actually making sure they're interviewing you.
Yes.
That's the part of what Tom's passionate about.
Brilliant.
That is,
I love that.
because otherwise, if people go for a job, they really want to get the job.
Yeah.
But maybe that's counterproductive. Because then 2 or 3 years down the line, you've got a job you don't really fit in, and you're struggling to stay out of trouble. And
I think that thing about, I did it with somebody 2 or 3 months ago, going for interviews for jobs, and she was very specific about what she wanted out of the role. And it was like, well, interview them. You've got to ask the questions. And she was like, when I first suggested, she was like, I can't do that. You know, I answer questions and that's it. And at the end of it, I go out and fingers crossed.
Did they think I'm okay?
Yeah.
But again, you bring in the accountability thing too.
Yeah.
So if you're really clear about the accountability of a specific role, then you could be really clear with the people you're interviewing.
Yeah.
This is what you will be held to account for.
Yeah.
And how, I mean, that we say accountability, but obviously it's quite a world of it to distinguish it and get it clear and get it defined, and it might move from, it might move, but then you've got a basis for it. It goes right through, doesn't it?
It does, absolutely.
And if somebody's not fulfilling on their accountability, it's not like, oh, you're failing at your job. No, it's just.
I like the way you said it was like, that's clean. It's a clean way of operating, isn't it?
It is.
Brilliant.
It is, and then you know you've got the accountabilities required to fulfil on the thing as a whole.
Yeah.
Then you're all at work on the thing as a whole.
Yeah.
Versus your little bit.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Listen, I think we've come to the end of our time. Oh. Thank you so much. It's been an absolute joy having you here.
Thank you.
And I hope all our viewers and listeners have got something from that. And listen, we'll have another podcast very soon, but please do take away some of what we've spoken about today. And then if you want to know anything more, you know that you can contact us through the usual channels. Thank you.